business models. Let's welcome Mr. Paolo Bevilacqua. Over to you, Paolo.
Thank you, Yvonne, and hello everyone, and I hope you're enjoying your day so far in the conference. So I will share some slides in a moment, but I just wanted to start by sharing a personal story. Just last week, my son came home. He's 12 years old, and he came home and he was very excited because during the day in one of his classes in geography, actually, he was studying livability, and he came to me and he said, "Oh, look, Dad, I'm really excited. We spoke about livability today, and the example that my teacher shared was a project called Central Park, which I know Fraser's property worked on." And I said, "Oh, wow, you know, I was equally excited and proud that was something that he was studying at school." And I said, "Well, what do you feel makes it a place that is livable?" And he started talking about, well, you know, he made it so simple. This is what kids do, right? He said, "Look, well, it's the ability to be able to, you know, get transport nearby and to go to some restaurants and cafes and have someone to go to meet your friends, have some open space, and maybe nearby where you study, and some really simple things." And I said, "Oh, well, that's great." I said, "Well, what do you think that does to you as a person, you know, as someone living in that community, in that development?" And he said, "Oh," and he had to think about that a bit. I said, "Oh, how does that make you feel?" And he says, "Oh, I think it would give me a sense of belonging." And I was again equally proud because as a developer, our aspiration is actually to create a sense of belonging, and so that's something we paid marketing consultants a lot of money to work out for us and create that message. But it's great that one is studying that at school and that two, he understands what livability is all about. And the reason why I share that story is actually because that development would not have been possible without quite an extensive partnership between Fraser's as an industry and a number of industry partners, as well as government and as well as the local community. That development site was quite controversial, and it has resulted in a development that is internationally renowned for leadership in mixed-use development and also decarbonisation. And despite it not being zero carbon at the time or currently, it is significantly lower carbon, and that was largely achieved through energy efficiency and passive design. But a big feature was a central district heating and cooling plant, and that contribution has resulted in was a partnership model and a new business model, because it required the local government to really incentivise Fraser's as a developer, and they did that through providing additional floor space. Okay, so on that note, I'll share some slides. Could I just get confirmation on the slides are visible?
Nope. Oh, yes, now it appears.
Okay. So look, without going into much detail about Fraser's property, we are a multinational property company where We have presence in over 70 cities globally and across 5 key asset classes: residential, commercial or business parks, industrial and logistics, hospitality and retail. We operate in a number of geographies through Southeast Asia, Europe, the UK, Australia, and as I said, we have the 5 asset classes. We also have 5 REITs that you can see on this slide, but I won't talk much of that because that's all information you could find quite readily on our website. We have a particular capability in mixed use developments, and we've demonstrated that through projects across our key geographies. I mentioned Central Park there in Sydney. We also are developing Bangkok's largest urban regeneration project, One Bangkok. We've recently completed the park in Bangkok, again, another mixed-use retail, office, residential development. And you can see a couple of examples which you may be familiar with in Singapore as well. Our sustainability focus is like many property companies, focused on those issues, or like all good sustainability frameworks should be, focused on the issues that are material to your organisation. In our case, they're set out in these 3 pillars, which are acting progressively, consuming responsibly, and focusing on people. And without going through each of those, I wanted to kind of just highlight some of those through my presentation. From a governance perspective, one of the things that has really been important for us over our maturing understanding of ESG management of sustainability is how we've set up the governance structure. So we have a risk management and sustainability committee, which is a board subcommittee. We also have a sustainability steering committee, which is comprised of a number of executives in the business. And then we have a group sustainability team and project management office that reports to that committee. Throughout the business, there's a number of task force and sustainability managers and resources that really champion and implement the initiatives within their respective businesses. Over the past 3 years or so, we've set some goals in specific areas. So despite having a framework, as I illustrated earlier, that covers a number of different areas, we really are focusing on these 5 at the moment. And the first one is to be a net zero carbon corporation by 2050. And the key here is that our scope includes scope 1, 2, and 3. So scope 3 is really the key challenge, and I'll talk to some examples of how we're tackling that through this presentation. But when we look at the carbon associated with the products we sell, the apartments and other building typologies, and also the energy used by our customers in those spaces that we own and manage, that's quite a challenge, as well as many of you would know, the challenge of addressing embodied carbon. We have roadmaps in place now for all our divisions, and we're using the Science Based Target Initiative to validate our targets, and 6 of our divisions have already disclosed their targets through SBTi. The second key goal is around climate resilience, and we're using the Task Force for Climate-Related Financial Disclosure framework and recommendations to develop our plan on how we approach climate resilience and management and metrics and disclosure. So that's resulted in starting with extensive climate risk assessments across the group and looking at a number of initiatives and changes we need to make through the organisation. From a green certification point of view, we set an ambitious target for 80% of our properties owned and managed to be green certified by 2024. And that's thrown up some challenges, because in some of the, developing or emerging markets, things we take for granted, like, you know, the portfolio certification rating tools are still emerging, and makes it really hard to green certify a large portfolio of buildings effectively and efficiently. From a green finance perspective, we set a goal for the majority of our finance to be green or sustainable. We have a group-wide sustainable finance framework. We've now exceeded $8 billion in green finance, which represents 45% of our total borrowing, so well on the way to achieving that goal. And finally, we appreciated the importance of building capability and capacity, and I actually think the biggest challenge is around capacity and understanding. And so we focused a lot on internal training. You know, over 5,500 staff, or 91% of our staff across the group have completed sustainability e-learning, and that was done in 15 languages, so no mean feat. And now we're going through a deeper dive for our senior leadership group on some specific topics. And we've recently completed zero carbon training for 400 senior leaders across the group. Our roadmap out to 2050 has a number of key milestones along the way, recognising that 2050 is far away, but we've made good progress, as I spoke to, and I'll talk to throughout this presentation. But also that we see, you know, a number of businesses with much higher aspiration than zero carbon by 2050. A couple of to note here, the Australian business has committed to net zero carbon by 2028 and has also signed up to the World GBC Net Zero Initiative. Our global industrial and logistics business has committed to zero carbon by 2030, as has our UK business. And so we feel that we'll make significant progress over the next few years towards zero carbon, and we'll review that 2050 target over the next few months, actually, to determine whether that's something we should revise. What's important, as I mentioned earlier, is the approach we take, and the mindset is key here. The attitude we take to decarbonising and to sustainability generally really requires a learning mindset. I think the biggest challenge and the reason why we've had success in some areas is not because of the technical solutions or, you know, regulation encouraging us. It's actually because of our ability to have a learning mindset, our ability to be willing to experiment, to listen to customers carefully, to get the insights, to iterate and implement again, and constantly go through that plan, do, check and act kind of cycle to achieve better customer outcomes and better sustainability outcomes. So I want to talk to three examples in this presentation. The first one, real utilities. The second one, balanced energy homes, or B homes. And the third one, zero carbon homes. So Real Utilities is a business that Fraser's Property established in Australia, and it's an in-house energy retailer wholly owned by Fraser's Property. And Real Utilities owns energy infrastructure across Fraser's residential, retail, commercial and industrial developments. It's certified as a carbon neutral organisation and a supplier of carbon neutral energy by the Australian government, and has implemented a range of projects that deliver net zero outcomes, renewable energy and demand control, which I'll talk to some of those examples. The key to Real Utilities, I guess, success to date, but just by way of background, Real Utilities now has approximately 1,800 customers across 15 projects that Fraser's has developed, and is growing rapidly over the next few years as the business, the Fraser's Property business, continues to develop new assets. But the key has been to strike benefits both for Frasers as a developer and ultimately for our customers. And so from a developer perspective, Rural Utilities funds, owns and operates the private energy network within development. So that provides a cost saving to the development team in having to establish that energy infrastructure. That energy network has got strong green aspects to it, decarbonisation aspects through solar, battery storage, more efficient central heating systems, and so on. But in addition to that, Rural Utilities provides 100% carbon neutral electricity achieved at the moment through a combination of off-site renewable and carbon offsets. So anything that can't be delivered zero carbon on-site through renewable energy is achieved through off-site renewable. From a customer perspective, the carbon neutral electricity certified by the government is a great benefit. Customers don't pay any more for that electricity, for that energy, and they don't have the burden of having to maintain a solar system or a battery system. More importantly, the customers don't need to sign any long-term agreements, which we've seen in some models in the market, power purchase agreements that require a longer commitment. Rural Utilities and Frasers really backs themselves to ensure that, to provide a really good product that customers will just want to commit to on an ongoing basis. So our agreements are fairly typical under Rural Utilities, and customers ultimately have power of choice due to the energy regulations in Australia requiring that to be the case. So anyone that's not happy with Rural Utilities service can leave. And to date, I'm pleased to report that Rural Utilities has 100% customer retention and really good customer satisfaction metrics. Without going through all these case studies, I just wanted to highlight that the model actually has been tested and works across different asset classes. And here are some examples of projects. The residential one on the left is a townhome development, so low density. It's an electricity and gas network complemented by on-site solar PV. The second one is Burwood Brickworks, which achieved Living Building Challenge certification and is recognised as the world's greenest retail building. On that site, Rural Utilities provides electricity and thermal energy. There's 1,000 kilowatt solar PV on site, and the balance of the energy plus 5%, so 105% of the supply to that building is through renewable energy. So it actually is climate positive or carbon positive from an operations perspective. The industrial solution is really interesting. It couples solar and battery with biodiesel generation to not only provide a low carbon solution, but energy resilience for those facilities, which increasingly are becoming key facilities to store a range of goods, obviously, and often our customers really would like to have that resilient power offering because we are seeing a greater occurrence of grid outages. The build-to-rent asset class is very similar to residential in terms of its structure, and then commercial again probably is similar to the retail model, but with this project in Macquarie Exchange will have extensive solar PV on site and achieve 100% renewable energy supply through off-site means. So in all cases, customers are getting that zero carbon outcome. The next example I want to talk about is balanced energy homes, which are at a project called Ed Square in Sydney. And these are net zero energy operational homes. They're part of the Ed Square community, which consists of about 2,000 residential lots. Some of those are in apartments, you can see in the town centre, and some are low density townhomes. It is very connected from a transport perspective as it sits adjacent to a train line. and has a large shopping centre on site near where the apartments are. The balanced energy homes were really came off the back of the work we did at another project called Fairwater, which implemented ground source heat pumps, and we partner with Climate Kick, who are an international organisation, have an Australian arm, as well as the Australian Renewable Energy Agency, who are a government-funded agency to encourage the uptake of renewable energy in Australia. That project, as I said, had ground source heat pumps, and there was an extensive period of monitoring data to understand the benefit of those heat pumps on not only energy and water consumption, but also indoor conditions and the overall heat island benefit to that site. That was key to establishing a new partnership with ARENA to deliver the 51 net zero energy homes or balanced energy homes. Now, many of you will know this, so pardon me if you do, but look, in simple terms, a net zero energy home will produce as much electricity on site as it will consume over the course of 1 year. So that these homes are still grid connected. They will draw from the grid at times, but overall they'll produce equal or a little bit more to the energy they need. The process we went through was really looking at that early feasibility study off the back of the Fairwater project and understanding how we could make the homes net zero energy. We then presented that to ARENA, who were very interested in the proposition and wanted to encourage that as an example for industry. They required some energy modelling just really to validate that the homes would be zero energy. And as we worked through that, we were able to really refine the design solution and cost that solution, understand the proposition from a customer perspective, and present that back to ARENA and really partner with them on the joint funding of the homes. And we've committed to ongoing monitoring during operation. These homes are about to become operational, so they're almost completely built now. The homes follow that very traditional hierarchy of decarbonisation in buildings, and that starts with reducing energy demand through passive design and getting the site orientation and building fabric right, making the homes all electric, then looking at the most efficient electric systems, and I'll talk about what we've done there. And then coupling that with on-site renewable energy and achieving a balance through any off-site renewable energy. Just comparing to an industry business as usual home, from a building fabric perspective, the homes are on average about 10% better. That's that NatHERS rating, the National Home Energy Rating Scheme. But many of the homes perform even better than that 5.5. That's an average. A typical home has a reverse cycle air conditioner. In the B homes, there's geothermal heat pumps, again, taking those learnings from previous projects. There's solar boosted electric hot water as opposed to gas instantaneous hot water. Induction cooktops, electric cooktops as opposed to gas. And then the on-site generation, 4 kilowatts of solar PV per home. There's a private energy network, which is operated by rural utilities. Really efficient lighting, and also a simple feature that customers have really responded well to, which is a master switch, a bit like when you stay in a hotel and you have the ability to switch everything off when you leave. We've done that in a home. So you can, as you walk out the door, push a button and turn off anything that might have been left on, which I've got 3 young boys, so I'd really love to have that in my home. From an energy reduction strategy, I won't go through all of these, but you can see that the big contributors are around the air conditioning. So the geothermal heat pump has a big contribution, as well as the solar hot water. And then a few other initiatives to get the energy demand and efficiency down to a level which we could then generate on site through the solar PV. The cost per dwelling, and this was a pilot, so the intent was to understand whether this could be scaled. So the cost per dwelling, I feel, is something that will come down, but it was $20,000 for one dwelling. This was done over 50, so it was about $1 million of additional spend, which was jointly funded by Arena and Fraser's, and that will save the customer about $1,000 per year. So, when you look at that purely from a commercial proposition, it's not the kind of payback that you would want to see, and that would be scalable. But the monitoring that we expect to see, we hope that number will be greater once we start monitoring, and that will allow us to kind of again take the learnings and look at how we iterate on the next project. The last example I wanted to share tackles a really important issue, which is embodied carbon. And this is something that is included, as I mentioned earlier, in Fraser's carbon scope and net zero commitment. And really, we wanted to take a different approach to try and address this. The project that it was tested on is a project called Bevilacqua, which is in Brisbane. It is a development of approximately 200 homes, predominantly terrace homes with some freehold land, and quite a green area, relatively close to the city. So we felt like a good demographic to test this concept. The goals of the Build Neutral initiative were to really test whether customers would be willing to pay to offset the embodied carbon associated with the construction of their home. So the project set out and bought carbon offsets from Australia and international to cover 10% of the carbon associated, embodied carbon of the development, and was hoping, was targeting a 5 to 10% take up from customers to pay that additional amount to offset the carbon. So it was really looking at that customer's propensity to pay. We hear a lot from customers that sustainability is important, and so we implement a lot of initiatives at our cost to respond to that growing demand. But this one wanted to test going a little bit beyond that and seeing whether customers would be willing to pay. So it really was a customer-led initiative. It offered residents the opportunity to take climate action, as I said, and mitigate their carbon emissions. We calculated the carbon after looking at initiatives to reduce embodied carbon in the first instance, and that came out to roughly approximately $1,000 per home. And we've chosen the carbon offsets that were chosen, as I said, were a split between local and international. And there was a separate arrangement set up. So, the sales team would present this as an option to prospective purchasers through brochures. We had obviously collateral online and within the sales offices. There was signage and social media to promote it. And then we provided, as I said, letter and separate contracts to purchasers who wanted to take it up. There's things that we've had some feedback on that we've learned from that. I think some customers said, look, they would have really liked if it was, promoted even more heavily as part of the sales process, because the ones that did take it up felt like it was, a little bit in the background. So that's a really good learning and might increase take-up on future projects. So look, the take-up that we've seen has been with the younger demographics. We haven't seen, I guess, the investor market and older generations being as receptive. Overall, we achieved a 5% customer take-up so far. There's still a few lots to sell, so we'll get a little bit over 5%. Which is within the target range. And we feel that it's an initiative that can build future projects quite easily. COVID made that whole process a bit more challenging because the whole sales process became different. Obviously, we lost the ability to promote it within the physical sales office, which is how traditionally people purchase their home, by coming to the sales office. And so shifting that to an online or virtual sales process was more challenging. But you can see the customer testimonial there, or one of them, which is that we are seeing a growing interest in customers wanting to really feel like they can contribute, because we are seeing climate change and sustainability becoming more important to customers. So they're the three key examples I wanted to touch on. I won't touch on, I have a few slides. I might just, I wanted to show this image of the Living Building Challenge project in Melbourne. So this has been open now since 2021, has achieved PEDAL certification under the Living Building Challenge, and is well on the way to achieving full Living Building Challenge certification. And you can see that, you know, this looks a bit different as a shopping centre. Apart from the roof structure and extensive solar PV, which is maybe not that uncommon anymore. A large portion of the roof, about 2,500 square metres, is dedicated to an urban farm and greenhouse facility, and that is operated by a farmer. So we do have a farmer on site at this shopping centre, and produces a reasonable amount of produce for the restaurant and cafe, which you can see on the right-hand side on the rooftop there, but also provides a fantastic educational facility for local schools. There's approximately 60 local schools within, 6 or so kilometres of this site, and so it's already provided a large amount of kind of tours and workshops for local children and the community. I'll finish up there. Yvonne, thanks very much everyone for your attention, and I look forward to taking some questions.
Well, I thought that was a really inspiring presentation. And I've got a few questions, but I think I'll start with the last one first. On the Build Neutral initiative, this is the offset for embodied carbon is offered at the point of sale. Are there plans to keep it available? So do the customers have to make the decision at the point of sale, or can they have a think about it and then come on board the program later? And is it also, are there plans to keep it for the longer term so that subsequent owners of the property, if it gets sold, the owners have the option also to offset the embodied carbon of the structure?
Good question. So look, customers can take it up anytime up until when they get the keys to the home. So they have that option to think about it. It is set up through a separate contract, so they can do that. That particular site where those homes are on is also a real utility site, so the operational energy is also zero carbon.
Yeah.
So in terms of the ongoing carbon, we haven't thought about that. That is a good idea. It would actually be quite minimal, because the operational will be zero, the initial embodied would be zero. So then you're only just talking about any embodied carbon that would come up during the life of the building, or maybe at some point in the very distant future when the building is demolished. So I guess there are some consumables along the way, but from our analysis, it's not a material amount once you've addressed that upfront embodied and the ongoing operational.
Oh, I think the question was about, because there's a certain embodied of the whole development, and then there's an option for the owners to purchase the offset for their building structure. Is that right? For
the construction of the home. Yeah. Oh, do you mean I guess the embodied associated with them, with their lifestyle?
No, with the building construction. So they have to purchase that at the point of sale, or can they like decide 1 year later and then they come back and ask for the offset of the building structure itself, the building construction work?
Oh, okay. Yeah, look, well, the offset is based on the building construction. So it's a calculation of how much carbon will be associated with the building construction. That's what they're signing up to purchase. So
is it one-off? It's a one-off payment, right?
One-off, yeah. It's a one-off payment. Yeah, so it's for the life of it. So we've assumed a 60-year life in line with the greenhouse gas protocol. But it's really looking at that upfront carbon that's we're offering to offset.
And they have to make that decision at that point of purchase when they're purchasing their home.
Correct. Yep.
I see. Okay, thank you. Okay, let me get to the questions. The first one, what new renewable energy technologies is Real Utilities looking at? I mean, are you looking at any other new potential renewable energy technologies?
Not particularly. We're quite comfortable that solar and battery storage will be able to achieve the majority of our requirements. I mean, we are looking at some demand control solutions around air conditioning, and so whether we can minimize demand, and we are looking at also around electric vehicle charging and what that might look like and how we integrate that in development and do it smartly. And I think having a utility manage that charging and then charge customers appropriately, I think will really be important. But I think a lot of the technologies to solve the challenge already exist. So there's nothing groundbreaking that we're particularly looking at.
Okay, thank you. And then I'll take two of the questions like together. You mentioned about carbon neutral electricity at no extra cost. So I think that sounds really exciting. Are there plans for Real Utilities to be going into new markets beyond Australia? And in relation to that, for Fraser's Property as a whole, there's a 2050 target to be net zero carbon. So are there plans to be exporting renewable energy from Australia, for example, for your properties in Singapore?
Great question. We are actually currently reviewing where the Real Utilities model, where else it could apply within the group. So I think if we were to do that, we would set up a similar structure in those other markets where it made sense for regulatory and customer and the energy market, I guess, reasons and commercial reasons. So yeah, it's something we're reviewing. We are still focused on it being a solution that's provided to Fraser's Property customers as opposed to selling it as a service to other developers, because we do see that it is a value add to our property business at this point to achieve our zero carbon targets. I mean, it is a key plank of achieving zero carbon because we have included the customer's energy use within our footprint. So yeah, so that hopefully that answers that question.
Yeah, interesting. Will be nice to be your customer. Okay. And the last question is for the balanced energy homes, has there been any study on what's the user consumption pattern? Because it's more energy efficient, do the homeowners end up like consuming more because they know that everything is already more efficient, or their appliances?
Yeah, I'm really interested to see what the usage patterns will be. We because we have Real Utilities, we have access to half-hourly load profiles for quite a number of residential homes and apartments, and so we use that information to develop a load profile, and then we overlaid new technologies and solutions that were being implemented. So to understand how much we think demand will be reduced by. But those homes are just, as I mentioned, the construction's just been completed, and monitoring is a key part of what we've committed to as part of the ARENA funding. So, you know, undertaking the monitoring and also disclosing that to industry and to the market. So it will be interesting. I have heard that kind of that perverse outcome. You know, when people buy an electric car, they end up driving twice as much. Or yeah.
Well, it'll be interesting for us to see the outcomes at a later date. Yeah, I think that's all the questions I have. For you. So
thanks
thank you
very much.
Yep, and see you later at the panel discussion.
Yes, thank you.